Hi, my name is Ken Lassison. Last night I ended up adding a few more hundred bacteria to medical condition associations to my site, and as a side effect, I went and decided to revise and revisit this whole group of pages which are now called medical conditions to make life a little bit easier. Under it, you will see there are free items now. There used to be 5, 2 of which were charts, and I have deprecated them because the amount of data has grown to the point that the charts are no longer particularly useful to get an overview. They're just very complicated very fast. Okay, let's take a look at the first one, which let's assume you have gotten a microbiome report from Thrive or some other organization. And what it have here is bacteria to conditions. So you can go down and take a look at your results and say, okay, wait a minute, I have a high one just one I won't attempt to pronounce. It happens to be high, and there's 2 conditions associated: rheumatoid arthritis and type 2 diabetes. If you want to know where or what the actual studies are, for example, if you happen to be a medical professional or whatever, what you could simply do is click here, studies, and it goes over and provides information as to where the information came from. The thing is organized in a hierarchical structure so that you have families, classes, etc. So you can go down to as low or high level as you want, as a particular genus, etc. I should mention that as you go down, you will find occasionally things that seems to be Greek um, or very cryptic. Let's go down to the very bottom. You should find some there. As I said, there are a fair number. Here we are. And if you click on one of these and you're saying, what in the world is that? And it will go over to a page where you can see the alternative names and you can say, wait a minute, okay, I recognize that. It's commonly called that nowadays, and that's it. So that will now give you the ability to look up the names and find alternative names. The interesting aspect is looking at studies. You'll find studies use different names for the same bacteria, and there is a master cross-reference which I've incorporated on my site between all of them, and I leave it to you, the user, to pick the name which you want, feel most comfortable with. Sometimes the names are interesting because they indicate that when a bacteria was discovered, like for example 2010, which means it's a relatively new bacteria and was unknown in a study from 15 years ago. Okay, let's go on to condition to bacteria. Actually, yeah. And there we have each of the conditions, and then we have the taxonomical rank, and then the actual taxonomy again. We have H if the bacteria is reported high, L if the bacteria is reported low, and it goes on. And some things that, like Lou Gehrig's disease here, the list goes on for a long time because there have been some absolutely massive studies done on it. And again, if you hit a item which you don't know what it is, go over there and take a look for it, and you can see that this bacteria was originally called a Streptococcus back in 1937, and we have a whole variety of names. 1957 is indicated that that's probably the current name, so I'll update the page to that one. And then if you do a refresh back here, we will see that the name has been updated to the one which we selected. Again, it's all user make the decision to which names you want to have review. Again, sometimes going through the process of clicking through gives you some insight into when we first discovered this bacteria as a specific bacteria, and sometimes the history of where it was classified with. Some things were classified as Lactobacillus, and then it became a Streptococcus, and then became whatever. And the reason for the change of classification is generally the mechanisms of classification. The original ones were done by observation, then by some chemical characteristics. The latest method is by doing actual DNA analysis of the bacteria, which means we can much better group them together to where they actually belong, as into which group, which family, etc. So that's the first 2 pages. Let's go back to our top of the page. And last one is adjusting conditions a priori. And this is intended for people who don't have a microbiome results. They have one or multiple medical conditions, and they are willing to make the assumption, or the physicians are willing to make the assumption, that you probably have the microbiome dysfunctions reported in literature. So what we do is we make an assumption that we have those shifts, and then we run with that assumptions to figure out what will reduce the bacteria which are high and increase the bacteria are low. Again, it is making a couple of assumptions which are usually deemed to be reasonable assumptions in a lack of any additional information. The best solution is always to have actual microbiome analysis to be able to work from. So here we have the a priori adjustments, and we see down here we have a long list of things. If we go and take a look at something like high blood pressure, you notice we can link back to the bacteria associated with it. And there we have the list of the bad bacteria. If you're wondering if something else is associated with it, then you actually have a little bit of fun, because what you can do is go up here and just click on the bacteria again. Remember, we were here before for changing the names, but if you go down below, we have listed all of the conditions which this bacteria is also associated with. So what we often find, there is a clustering of medical conditions and bacteria, and then for the bacteria, there's clustering of different bacteria for a medical condition. So it's basically a bunch of decks of cards shuffled together, and the net result is you have certain bacteria shifts and certain conditions. And in terms of citizen science part of the site, certain specific symptoms as a result of those bacteria, or certain bacteria shifts seen because of age, but that's a matter of a different talk. So we have here, you can do the reference, and down below we have an example of all the stuff which we know which will modify it. So for every bacteria, we have a long list of things that modify it. We have a long list of bacteria combinations. So we end up with a very, very complicated number of things. If we put it on a spreadsheet, or try to put it on a spreadsheet, you'll often find that you need 100 sheets, and every sheet has somewhere around 80 by 1,000 columns, and now you're supposed to optimize that. So that's what the AI engine I built behind this website does for you. So let's go back and take a look at there. So let's suppose we have the ones I'm most interested in, which is chronic fatigue syndrome. And we actually find that mentioned several different times, mainly because different studies give sufficiently different description of what they were looking at, the target population, or should say the study population. So we have that, and we say, okay, let's suppose I have it with IBS. And there, so I've selected IBS, ME, CFS with IBS, and CFS. So I have selected all of those which are actual description of what I have. I could have other things like depression, etc. So you can start literally compounding them into very complicated mixtures. So once you have done that, you can go up here and click the suggestions. When you click suggestions, you come to our custom suggestion screens, and this custom suggestion screens is designed to allow you or your physician to be able to make choices as to how well you want to, or what you want to use to do it. If they want to use antibiotics, it will tell you which antibiotics are best. If they want to do it by diet and other things, it will attempt to identify which one. If you want to do it by probiotics alone, you can do it. So here we have the set of criteria there, and we do two things. We include things which will help, and we include, more importantly, things that will hurt. Often people find that part of their normal diet is actually contributing to their health condition, even though that part is commonly believed by urban myth to be healthy. Or for some people, it is healthy. So go through, select what you want, and we click here. We can download it also as Excel, but let's just go through and click here and see what happens. And what we find here is that the prebiotic ingredient is one of the highest things. We have some specific probiotics, the plantarum, resveratrol. We have more prebiotics, starch, wheat, if you don't have a gluten issue, Jerusalem artichokes, Tryphala, which is one of my favorites, etc. Down the bottom, we have items to decrease, no high-fat diets, no aspirin, etc. The number on the right is the probability estimate, which is computed with a lot of magical Bayesian techniques. And probability of 1 indicates of all the things we looked at, this one is the one which has the highest probability of actually helping you. And then everything else is sort of relative down. So you want to go for the items with a high value and then work your way down to items with lower one. For example, if you had the choice between Lactobacillus aedephilus and Plantarum, the answer is very straightforward. The Plantarum is probably 3 times as likely to help. Note, I don't say how much it will help. I'm saying the probability of it helping more. So it is a different type of measurement. It is the probability of helping, not how much it will help. We don't know how much it helps because the studies really don't provide us with that information. And further down below, we end up with the probiotics, and we have 2 probiotics which are well suggested. One of them is a very high rating, which means that will be the probiotic I would spend my money on, and that is available on Amazon. It actually originates in Japan. And then down below we have Mixed Impact, and I need to get that screen updated, but the Mixed Impact basically are ones which you're taking a gamble. Some of the bacteria will have a probability of helping, some of them have a probability of hurting. The problem is we don't know if the net effect will be positive or negative. They are somewhat like spinning a barrel of a revolver and doing Russian roulette. You don't know if it will work or won't work, and we have no way of making that determination from the existing studies. Negative impact spells out this particular one will probably make things worse. And then we have things which has no impact, in other words, there are no studies for it. Down below again, we have what type of food or supplements are suggested. Again, everything is probability based, not actual amount of benefit. So basil, apples with skin, banana, dates, etc. And then we have flavonoids suggested. When we go down to flavonoids, we often end up doing a, what in the world is that? How do I get it? Do I have to go out and buy it as a supplement? Well, let's take a look at one of them. And this is a particular thing. And what we find is that we have what food it is and how much we have in it. So we see 2 things, which is blueberries and cacao or dark chocolate, and then grape seed raw. All of these are often included up above, but it simply says, okay, these are the types of foods you should include in. There is a large amount of information to digest. Usually try looking at the highest values, and those are the best things to work from. So use it as you wish. Again, going back, everything is originating underneath here, and that's basically it. I'll get that color problem fixed on the other one. It doesn't particularly matter for a moment or for this demo. Okay, that's it. I have revised the 3 pages. They are interconnected better, and they are generally a little bit more fun. Okay, have a good time, and may it just indeed help your health.